What's good people? Now that the dust has settled from UFC 311, I don't know, I have this feeling and this thought that a lot of people are underestimating just how good this Islam Makhachev win over Renato Moicano was, because Moicano was ranked 10th and Islam is the pound for pound king. Many people believe that it should have been a foregone conclusion that Islam would just make easy work of Renato Moicano, but I think a lot of people are forgetting just how tricky this matchup was for Islam Makhachev. A change of opponent the last minute is extremely devastating for fighters. You as Islam had prepared thoroughly, done your homework on Arman Tsarukyan, saw your weaknesses in the first match against Arman Tsarukyan, developed an understanding of how Arman approaches a fight, only for that homework to be shoved aside and you're given a new test. Think of it like this. Imagine you're writing your final exam and you have studied for it and you're absolutely prepared, and your teacher tells you the scope. They tell you you'll be writing, let's say history, you'll be writing about, I don't know, Napoleon. You go out, you study, you do all the research, you watch the movies, you do all it is you can to prepare, and you feel absolutely ready, only for the night before the exam, the teacher sends you an SMS saying, hang on a minute, you're not writing on Napoleon anymore, you're gonna write on Julius Caesar. That would demoralize you. You would not be as prepared as you initially were. Now that might be an extreme example because that's education and this is fighting, and fighting is fighting, you know, there's a lot of muscle memory in fighting compared to, I don't know, writing about history or doing essays and etc. But still, the same principle I believe does apply, which is Islam prepared so thoroughly for Arman Tsarukyan only for it to be taken away, and now he has to fight Moicano. And people will be like, well, Moicano is a much easier test, you know, it's not Arman Tsarukyan, it's not the next best guy. But still, this is the same division where we applauded Dustin Poirier for going out and showing that he still has that mental, that he's still that dude. When he knocked out Benoit Saint-Denis, we were like, Dustin Poirier is a mainstay in this division. He deserves to be where he is. He is one of the best. He's the best guy who's never won a belt, Dustin Poirier. That's what we believed and that's what we said. When Justin Gaethje went out and made work of Rafael Fiziev, we said Justin Gaethje is that dude. He's the next guy who never won a belt. And when someone like Beneil Dariush lost to Arman Tsarukyan, lost to Charles Oliveira, a lot of the hype was gone for him because he could not beat those below him. There has to be something said about Islam Makhachev accepting a fight against an unknown commodity, a commodity that is extremely dangerous. Listen, many people say Khabib has done it before. Khabib accepted last minute fights, but Khabib accepted last minute fights against someone like Ali Iquinta, who was not really a submission threat for Khabib. He didn't present a grappling threat for Khabib in the same manner that Renato Moicano presented. Renato is a black belt jiu-jitsu practitioner, so there's a factor of unknown, there's a factor of dangers, there's a factor of potential hiccups. And on top of that, we have to pay attention to the fact that Islam's teammate Umar Nurmagomedov just lost for the first time in his career. So there was a sense and an atmosphere of shakiness. Was this the night where the Dagestani dynasty finally fell? You put all those things together, you put every scenario involved for Islam to accept this fight, and you realize this fight and this win was much more impressive than a lot of people are trying to give it credit for. John Jones refused to fight the champion Chael Sonnen on 9 days notice because he felt as though he did not do enough homework on Chael Sonnen. He needed time to go back, understand Chael Sonnen, and prepare thoroughly for him. And this is the guy that 90% of the MMA world believes is the GOAT. And then you get Islam Makhachev, who has this quote in Dana White's office: if you're the champ, what does it mean if you're the champ? It means you can fight anyone, anytime, as long as they make your weight. That is something to marvel at when it comes to Islam. I mean, we could have potentially seen a case similar to Kamaru Usman versus Leon Edwards, where the underdog just surprises us. A lucky punch, a lucky submission. Well, submission is not likely, but let's say a lucky punch. We could have seen something along those lines. So Islam had to go in and make it a definitive win. And the fact that Islam went in and made it a definitive win in the sense that he did not want it to appear that there was any form of struggle against someone who is ranked 9 spots below him or 10 spots below him. But still, he did not want to make it seem, or he did not want the appearance to be that he had to grind and gruff against someone who is ranked number 10. He wanted it to be apparent that he is number 1, he is the pound for pound, and this dude is number 10, and there is a huge skill gap. Mind you, a skill gap between someone who was on a 4-fight winning streak, someone who was getting his mojo in, someone who, if he went and demolished Beneil Dariush, which was very likely, would probably be moving up the ladder, then he probably gets a fight against someone like Dustin Poirier, Justin Gaethje, and now he's moving further up the ladder, and then everyone is saying maybe Manny Moicano is the dude to beat Islam Makhachev. But Islam has quelled the potential for us to even bring up that question before that chance even arises, because he stopped it there and then. He stopped it. It's like, I don't know if people watch anime or something along those lines, but you know, it's like when Trunks went back in the past and killed Frieza before Frieza could become who he is. And that's essentially what Islam did. Islam is Trunks. He went back in the past. Well, not the past. He stopped something from happening that could have potentially been a debate in the future. Imagine in the next 4 fights or 5 fights, Moicano goes on a crazy win streak, and then Islam goes to welterweight and he wins the belt and he wants to retire. And everyone will be like, well, he dodged Manny Moicano. Moicano was that dude. We had the same argument for Charles Oliveira, who had a shaky start to his UFC career, then later on surged, and then everyone was like, well, Khabib versus Charles is the real fight. There's always the next guy. And Moicano, best believe, had he continued his form, his streak would have been the next guy. But let me know what you guys think. Am I delusional or am I onto something?